Sport Fishing on the Fly is brought to you by Togen's Fly Shop, Maui Jim Sunglasses, and Hardy Rods and Reels.
Well, hello, my name is Rick Passek, the Fly Fishing Fanatic, and welcome to another episode of On the Bench with Sport Fishing on the Fly. Today we're going to be tying a large predator pattern, really good for pike, really good for bass, tarpon, all kinds of stuff like that. It's actually my take on TJ's Folly 2 from Stu Thompson. It's my take on it. Really good fly, tied in in tarpon style, so you're only using the back half of the hook for tying in. So let's get her going. So we're going to start off, like I said, it's a big fly, big hook. This is a size 2 Mustad Predator hook. I don't know what the number is, unfortunately, but it is a size 2 Mustad Predator hook. We're going to be using some, where are we? We're going to be using some Zemperfly Predator fiber in bright chartreuse. We're going to be using some Zemperfly Predator fiber in white. We're going to be using a couple of little pieces of lateral scale. And we're going to be using some Zemperfly Seals Fur Substitute in black. And at the very end, we will be putting on a Stonfo soft head. These things are awesome. I love these soft heads. So, and for the thread, we'll be using some Zemperfly Nano Silk in a size 12. So, this is tied tarpon style. Tarpon style means you're leaving the front of the hook bare. So, we're gonna... Oh, thanks, Fuzzy. My dog's sitting beside me hacking. So, I'm just gonna tie that on. Get that started. Cut off my excess here. Just make sure you've got a decent little base. You don't want a huge one here because you just want to keep it near the back. Okay, so belly is the bottom, so the belly is going to be white. So I'm going to take some of the Predator fiber and figure out roughly how. This all depends on how heavy, how big of a fly you're wanting, how much material you're going to use. But I'm going to use about that much there. Okay, now it is, so you can see it's about, probably about 3 inches, 3.5 inches. So I'm going to use about that much. I'll take my larger scissors. Just get a nice clean cut there. If you don't get a perfect cut, just go back and just clean it. I'm just going to lay this down after I wax my thread. Nano Silks, GSPs are slippery. Use your wax, especially on these synthetic products. So now I'm gonna loosish wrap, loosish wrap, loosish wrap, and then I'll tighten up as I go back. And I'm just gonna go back a little bit. That's it. And now I can tighten right down. And I'm cranking on this pretty good. That's why you want to use a good quality, high strength thread like a Nano Silk or other GSP. Okay, now taking some of the green. Like I said, it's a large fly, but it's actually fairly simple to tie. Gonna get about the same amount, maybe a little tad more. And again, just gonna figure out my length. I want to be slightly longer than the white, so I'll cut it right about there. Switch hands. Nice clean cut. Again, wax my thread. Got marabou flying all over the place. Lay that down again. Loosish wrap, loosish wrap, loosish wrap. Pull down, down. That'll hold that all into place. There you go. Now I'm just gonna go through that stuff. Make sure it's all tied down. Counterclockwise spin my thread, just to flatten it out a bit. Okay, so there is the main part of my fly. I don't cut anything on these. Like if I'm gonna want to do any forming at the back end here, I'll just rip it. Okay, I think I'm going to try to turn off that light. Yeah, that's better. Not as flashy. So now, I'm going to take 2 pieces of lateral scale here. One for either side. Actually, I should be able to get enough out of 1 piece for both. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to lay the lateral scale right down the side. I want this, basically I want this to be the lateral line of the minnow. So I'm going to lay this right down the center. Actually, you know what, this one here has got a little bit of a bend on the end and I don't like that. So, I mean, it'll straighten out in the water, but if there's a bit of a curve, have that curve going in. It just makes it, more than anything, it makes it look better, that's all. So I want that about as long as the body, so right about there. Tie that down right in the side, so it's right along that side. See, right along where the white and the green meet. I don't know if this will be long enough for the other side. I'll see in a second. No. Grab another one, another lateral scale. And again, I'm just going to lay this on top of my vise. And then I'm going to lay this down right along the side, and I want to be, like I said, I want to be as long as the fly. I'm just going to make sure my fingers keep it where I want it. And don't worry what it looks like when it's dry, because sometimes this stuff just doesn't want to cooperate until you're in the water. And just like tying that back if you got the room. Just holds it in. Make sure you get rid of that though, because you don't want 2. You only want the 1 lateral scale. Now the other way I do this is instead of lateral scale, I'll tie in a hackle fiber, like a grizzly hackle fiber. Okay. Now that that's done, now I'm going to take some of the Semperfli seals for a substitute, and this stuff is quite long. The fibers are quite long. So on smaller flies, you want to cut this stuff and then blend it, like just blend it back in so you don't have the cut ends. But on one like this, you want these longer fibers. So I'm just going to pull just a little bit more out. Okay, I'm going to do a real quick little dubbing loop. Lateral scale out of the way. Bring that forward to there. Get my little dubbing spinner. Dubbing spinner on. Take my little package of that Semper seal. Put it in between. Spread it out a bit. Give it a really good spin. Another one, and then I'm going to take my brush, brush some of these fibers out, wrap, stroking back the material as you go. Okay, and head out to the front there, off that bulge that you created with all the materials. Just tie all this down. Cut off my dubbing loop. Now I'm going to just really crank that down there, and then I'm going to brush it out a bit. I want some of these longer stragglers coming back. And you'll see why in a minute that I want them back. Because once I put that head on, you want this stuff to be exposed, right? So that's pretty good there. So now I'm going to take my whip finishing tool. I'm going to just do a whip finish. And another set of whip finish. You can do this by hand if you feel comfortable doing it by hand. Don't get it caught like that. Sometimes you get it caught in the eye. This is the toughest part actually in the whole fly, is to do this whip finish so you don't get caught in the front. So you got to use a larger whip finishing tool. Okay. Cut that off. Then I will take just the slightest little bit of crazy glue. This happens to be M300. This stuff's excellent. And I'm just going to put a dab of that right on the head there. Right on that area. Close that up. Grab my Stonfo soft head. And now you have to figure out what size you need, but I know for this it's going to be the small. So that soft head just gets pushed right over that eye and it goes in. Then you got to figure out which way is up and down. Sorry, my fingers. And get that in there. So there's your soft head on. Now just for additional strength, that's good. But for additional, I like just going right back in front of that soft head and just putting a thread down. Just so it doesn't slide on you. Just put a bit of a thread down there to stop it. Right? And doesn't have to be huge, but you definitely want to have something to stop it from coming forward if it does. It probably won't because of that crazy glue, but then again, just 1, 2, 3, 4. Good enough. Now I will put just a dab of UV resin on this portion here. And that's all for now. Just hit that with the UV light. Just get that dried up. You can use head cement there, whatever you prefer. Now, what I do is I take whatever kind of eyes you like to use. I've just happen to have these cheaper tape eyes. And I actually really like the color of these, the green. So what I'll do is I'll turn this on my side. I'm just going to give just the slightest little bit of UV resin right there. So leave it alone. Take my little bodkin, grab an eye, try to get it on the bodkin, not on my finger, because it's a lot easier this way. Get it right in there. Okay, now some of that UV resin has squirted out, which is exactly what I wanted. Now I hit it, just so you can see. So now that's right in with that UV resin, so it ain't gonna come off. Repeat. And you don't need much of this UV resin on there. You just want enough so it gets when you're putting these tape eyes on that they squish out, so you can get a good cure. That's the only reason. Now you can just put the eyes on and then coat it. It's up to you. But actually, I'm going to put a little bit on this one because this one didn't squish out as much, which is fine. I'll just take my bodkin and just spread that a bit. Make sure it comes off of the eye, otherwise it ain't going to hold, right? There you go. Once you got that on, give that a bit of a UV, and you're finished. No building of heads with all the UV stuff. These soft heads are phenomenal. They're really, really good. And that is your finished predator fly. Really, really good for pike. Really good for bass. You can do it in so many different versions. I really like this version as well, with the red. Just using Palmer chenille, red Palmer chenille. And then you can do it a little smaller if you like, with a little bit less dubbing. So it's up to you. But yeah, tie these like this. The reason behind that is you get a lot more movement out of this tail, right, than you would if you tied it all the way forward, right, and less fouling. So, alrighty. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed that, and I hope you guys will give that one a try. And thanks for tuning in to another episode of On the Bench with Sports Fishing on the Fly.